Hi, I'm Luke and welcome to Down from the Attic, Modern Classics, where I look at newer board games that you might not have heard of, but are well worth checking out. Saddle up partners, load your 6 shooters and bandit masks on. We're looking at the rooting, tooting, gun shooting, train looting game of Colt Express. There's a lot to cover with this game, so let's get this thing down and check it out.
First off, box art, and I love this, cartoony and action-packed, showing you exactly what you'll be doing in the game. And lifting the lid off, well, the contents for this game are spectacular, as is the box insert. All canyons, cacti, bridges and rivers, it really sets the theme. But the pieces, 6 train carriages, and they're all different, all have their different artwork to them. First class coaches, restaurant car, saloon car, mail car, and the train is just adorable too. And then there's these scenery pieces too, cacti, mesas, not needed in the least bit, but again, adding to the theming of the game. Admittedly, these need assembling. They don't come like this in the box, but it's a fun way to pass half an hour. There's 7 cowboy meeples, a deck of cards, your character cards, and these loot tokens. The art for all of this is superb, wonderfully cartoony. The train looks like it's jumped right out of a comic. Setup. The cards will need to be separated out into their different types. Each character has their own themed coloured cards. Put each colour set with the corresponding character in 2 sets, the bullet cards and the action cards. The Marshal's neutral bullet cards are put to one side too. How many people are playing dictates which set of round cards to use. You can see the suggested players in the corner. A game of Colt Express is done over 5 rounds, so shuffle the round cards and take 5 out and set to one side. Additionally, stopping cards can be added in. These are similar to the round cards but have different parameters. We'll talk about this soon, but yeah, instead of 5 round cards, draw 4 round cards and add a stopping card. For each character playing, you add another carriage to the train. So 3 players, 3 carriages, 4 players, 4 carriages, etc. A 2-player game, each player assumes the role of 2 bandits, so it's a 4 carriage long train. For each player, they receive one $250 purse. The Marshal is added to the train. As mentioned, each carriage is different, and on the floor of each carriage there's a little symbol indicating which loot tokens to add to that carriage. Add the tokens in face down so you can't see the value of them. Loot has different values, and not knowing which is more valuable makes the hunt for those big value ones even more bloodthirsty. Additionally, a strong box worth $1,000 is put in the engine with the Marshal. Everyone chooses a carriage to place their meeple in there as their starting position. And we're ready to play. And set up, I mean, this game is a real eye catcher. It doesn't look like any other game. So the aim of this game is to steal as much loot as you can. The player with the most loot at the end of the 5th round wins. However, the best gunslinger also gets an additional $1,000, so peppering your opponents with bullets really helps too. A round works in 2 phases, scheming and stealing. The scheming stage works as follows. The top round card is turned over, and this will indicate how many cards will be played this round, and also any additional actions everyone has to perform this turn. Blank rectangles means playing your action card face up, so everyone playing can see the move you're making. Tunnels mean that the train is, well, in a tunnel, so you play your action card face down, so people can't see the move you're making. 2 rectangles joined in the middle mean you play 2 cards at the same time on that turn. And the arrow turns the direction of play. Ordinarily play goes clockwise, but with the arrow, it turns anti-clockwise. There's end of round action specifics too to that card, but we'll get to that. So, the round card is turned over and all players draw 6 cards from their action deck. These are the actions they can choose to play this round. The actions are as follows. Move. Simple enough. You can move your meeple along the train, towards loot, away from other bandits shooting at you, and away from the Marshal. If inside the train, you can only move 1 carriage at a time, but if you're on the roof of the train, you can move the entire length of the train if you like. Change floors. You can climb to and from the roof of the carriage you're stood on, again avoiding other bandits shooting at you, or to climb down to loot-filled cars. Shoot, you get to shoot at your opponents. You cannot shoot at an opponent in the same space as you can only shoot into the adjacent carriages, so you'll need to think when to play these. If on the roof of the train you have complete line of sight and can shoot along the whole length of the train, really useful. If you shoot an opponent, you give them one of your bullet cards, which then is shuffled into their action card deck. If this is drawn, it basically deletes one of their 6 action choices for that round, so the more bullets shot into an opponent, the more chances of them getting less actions to choose from. It's pretty ruthless. Rob, simply enough, take a loot token from the space you're in and add it face down onto your card. Marshal. Now, this is where things get interesting. The Marshal cannot be shot at and doesn't take any damage, but oh man, he can shoot you. If you play a Marshal card, you can move the Marshal, and if the Marshal is in the same space as another player, they get shot and retreat to the roof, or if on the roof, retreat back down into the carriage. This is a real mean way of forcing other players away from loot or into the path of bullets. The Marshal can be used very strategically. Punch. If you're in the same space as another player, you can punch them, and they drop loot. This means that yes, loot can be lost, and the loot can be dispersed around the train, on the roof, in different cars. So, those are the movement cards you can choose from, and using the round cards, and following the round cards rules, you'll take turns playing your action cards, which leads to the stealing phase, and this is where you act out in sequence all the cards you have just played. People will move carriages, steal loot, shoot at each other, climb on the roof of carriages, and move the Marshal. A big part of this game is keeping a keen eye on what cards your opponents are playing and making guesses about their strategy and their moves. A player may play a move card, but which direction are they heading? If they're on the roof, are they going to go the whole length of the train or only go halfway along? Someone might be aiming to shoot at you, so you might want to climb down and get out of the way. Paying attention to all the details is essential in this game. But with certain round cards having tunnels, sometimes all tunnels, you have no idea what your opponents are doing. You might think you're running to another carriage to snatch loot, but another player lands the Marshal in there. There is definitely an element of luck to this game. As mentioned, each round card has an end of round action, so certain cards will have the train brake, so any bandits stood on the roof get flung one car closer to the train. Swivel arms means that all bandits on the roof move one car closer to the caboose. Angry Marshal shoots any bandits on the roof. These all add a bit of randomness to the game and shake things up with the positioning of bandits. But that's not all, as each character has their own special ability, which they can use to help them snag the most loot. Ghost has the option of playing one of his cards face down every round, so other players don't know what Ghost is up to. Doc draws 7 cards, not 6 at the start of a round, so he has more choices and more options for his moves, and if he's shot, it kinda lessens the chance of him drawing unusable bullet cards. Tuco can shoot people through the roof of the car he's on or in, incredibly useful. Cheyenne, when punching another opponent, rather than dropping the loot, she catches it as it falls and adds it to her loot pile. Belle uses her feminine charms to disarm other players. If another bandit is in the same carriage or on the roof, they will always get shot or punched over Belle. And Django, when he shoots its gun, it's so powerful it blasts the opponent to the opposite floor and as far away from him as possible. So round by round you use your cards to plan your moves, use your special abilities and taking into account any round specific moves to loot and shoot your way to victory. When the final round is played, loot is counted up and $1,000 is awarded to the player who shot the most bullets. The player with the most amount of loot at the end of the game wins.
As you can see, there's quite a lot to this game, but if that isn't enough for you, there's expansion packs.
The coolest and rarest of the ones I own is the Time Travel Car add-on, and originally you got this add-on by playing Colt Express at the Ludonaute stand at an event and winning, and well, I mean, this is just fantastic. It's the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and just like in the third film, it goes right at the front of the train. But aside from looking awesome, it does have a really interesting play mechanic to it. Players can make their way to the DeLorean and at the end of a round, provided they're in there on their own, this activates the ability. The player can then place their meeple under any carriage they want in secret. All the players have their eyes closed whilst this is happening. This allows the player to choose their starting position for that round, plan their moves during the scheming stage, and the other players have no idea where they are and where they're moving to until the stealing stage starts and they reveal their position. It's a really sneaky move that adds a lot of fun to the game. Additionally, if a player ends the game in the DeLorean, they receive an additional $500. Next is the Marshal Imprisoners expansion pack, and this introduces a new car to the train, the Prison Car, and 2 new characters to play as, May and the Marshal. All Marshal cards are removed from other players' action decks, as someone will be assuming the role of the Marshal. Also, all the Marshal bullet cards are handed to the Marshal as he has 2 guns and he's not going to be shy about using those. May's special ability allows her to move diagonally from roof to carriage, but the real change for the game is with the Marshal. Unlike the bandits, he has his own goals to win. For every bandit apprehended and slung into the jail car, he receives a bounty, so he'll be gunning for all of you. And the Marshal's new bullet cards have certain parameters. For example, Wounded Knee means the shot player cannot climb this turn. The Marshal also has a number of parameter cards to score with too, such as shooting the same bandit 4 times, firing all their bullets and avoiding being punched. If the Marshal has completed 4 of these by the end of the game, they win, no questions asked. So the bandits will need to act tactfully to ensure they stop him from completing these, but avoid being thrown in jail at the same time. Bandits can also punch and shoot the Marshal now, and for every punch, he takes damage. This is another way the Marshal can make money, by not being hit. The less punches, the more money. The bandits, they have new loot to hunt for, the mail sacks, and they have large sums of money. But the big thing here is springing prisoners. Prisoners can be sprung from the jail car, and these are cards, actually, that art shows brothers and sisters of the characters that you would normally play as, and these cards grant the bandits special powers. If your prisoner matches your character, you can loot 2 tokens at one time. But if the prisoner is another bandit's trusty partner, you assume their ability. So for example, Tuco, with his shooting power, could free Ghost's trusty partner and have the ability to play a card face down. This gives a ton of replay value to the game. The expansion comes with additional turn cards and stopping cards too. The other expansion, which I don't yet have, a stagecoach that the bandits can jump to and from that runs parallel to the train. I'm really interested in giving this expansion a go, however.
Final thoughts, Colt Express is a manic game of backstabbing and forward planning, but those plans can quickly unravel because you never quite know what your opponents are up to, which direction they're running, if they're planning to shoot you or punch you, if they're going to use the Marshal to influence your movements. There's a lot of little subtleties to this game that I really enjoy. This is a programming game, and if you're not a fan of those types of games, you're probably not going to like this. My dad hates this game. Hates it, and it's purely because 1, he can't cheat at it, and 2, once those cards are locked in, once you've played the cards, that's it, that's the sequence, and there's no way of countering really someone shooting at you or punching you, or you're losing loot, or them using the Marshal to influence your movements. That's just how the game plays. But there's a lot to like with this, running along the rooftops of the train, looting, shooting your opponents, using that Marshal in clever ways to sort of influence how your opponents move around the train, and the expansion packs as well are great fun. This game is definitely best with a larger group of players. 3 to 4 players is fantastic, 5 to 6 is absolute manic fun. The 2-player variant is good, but the problem I find with it is you are in control of 2 characters, and when you're playing with just 1 character in a larger group, you're planning those moves ahead. Right, so I'm in that carriage and I move across to that one, and I'm going to grab that jewel, climb onto the roof and run all the way along the carriages. When you've got 2 characters to keep track of like that, it can be a bit of a, mind mash. But yeah, solid recommendation from me on this one. If you're not completely sold on it, there's an app version of this game that you can buy for a couple of bucks. It's the exact gameplay from this board game, and it's a lot of fun. I have it on my phone. Well, as always, I'm Luke, thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.
If you like what I'm doing here, please consider liking the video, subscribe to be notified of new videos when I post them, and comments are always welcome.